Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my session at ParDreamin. My name is Jaime López, and today I'm going to talk to you about how you can push the boundaries of marketing measurability and get to that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which is the marketing return of investment number. So, tiny bit of background about myself. I was originally born in Spain, but I've been living, working in Finland for the past 8 years and change. My background is that of an engineer, so I cut my teeth learning how to design nuclear power plants. But I've actually never worked in that, but mostly worked in data-driven marketing. In parallel, I've kept up to date, I've kept studying, and particularly doing machine learning stuff. Stanford has fantastic courses at that on Coursera, which I encourage you to take, because that's going to give you the ultimate tool set to get great results from your marketing data. I've been lucky enough to be a part of teams that have been awarded with some accolades like the Bronze Effie Award in 2017, and I am a member of the inaugural class of Salesforce Marketing Champions this year. So, a little bit about the company I work with. Wärtsilä, fantastic place to work at, horrible company name. Many people joke and say that it's one of the biggest companies you've never heard of. Doesn't surprise me. The name is very difficult to pronounce for anybody who doesn't speak Finnish. But we are a global leader in smart technologies for the marine market and the energy market. So actually, what you can see behind me is a simulation of where vessels and power plants with our equipment, our technology are. We have sales for a bit over 5 billion euros per year. We have offices and presence in a bit more than 80 countries, and we employ 18,000 souls. For reference, if you go to a harbor or if you go to a cruise, even though cruises are really not a thing nowadays, there's a roughly 1 in 3 chance that any large vessel you see, a container vessel, tug, cruise ship, car carrier, ferry, 1 in 3 chance that that is going to be powered by one of our engines. These are not your car bus engine, they're really huge, they're like a building big. There's even a bit larger chance that that vessel is serviced by us. It's a 50-50 chance. Any vessel you see out there, we are going to maintain it, repair it, keep it working, optimized, and we're going to supply it with other equipment to optimize its route, its speed, and so forth. And on the energy side, our installed base of power plants from the savanna to the jungle to the tundra produces roughly 1% of the energy worldwide in 177 countries. So, what are we going to learn today? First, we're going to discuss how you can utilize some tools, in particular Pardot Einstein Attribution, to make very operational decisions about your marketing. Then, we're going to move on to how to ascertain how much of the value of a deal was actually marketing's doing, what I call real attribution. We're going to also talk about how we can integrate Pardot data into a full funnel measurability model, and a little bit about the statistical background and the system architecture of such model. We will also give some consideration to data input and output from different platforms. It's one of the most annoying things to do, but one of the most important things to do, how to take your data out and digest it so that your model can understand it and give you value. So all this started in year of our Lord, coronavirus -4, so roughly 2016, when our chief marketing officer passed by my desk and said, "Hey, Jaime, I just told our CEO that I know that roughly for each euro we invest in marketing, we get 2 in sales. But can you actually prove that for me, please?" So I thought, okay, wow, interesting. That's going to be tricky, but I can do it. And I think that this calls for actually looking into our data and trying to build a model that understands correlation and causation of our marketing. Those are the 2 stages. First, I need to know that more marketing and more sales correlate together, but then I need to be able, for me as a person with a science background, to stand in front of my board and stand behind my numbers. I need to prove causation, that more measurable marketing actually causes more sales. So first take here. I knew this was going to be a hell of a difficult journey, but a light bulb had switched on the C-suite. That's how I picture them, that when I would go there, and show that actually our marketing does cost sales and it's this much, I would have their attention. And I would be able to take a seat at the table and finally claim the responsibility for marketing to deliver revenue and profit. That's exactly how it turned out. It's been a hell of a journey. My learnings there, well, to paint a little bit the picture, this is how our Pardot instance looks at the end of a given year, more or less. So to give you an impression, I have to be able to show that from those roughly 2 million unique visits or visitors to our website, all the way down through the funnel to the 1.6, 1.7 billion euros in our case of revenue that have provable marketing touch points, I need to figure out the correlation and causation. And as you can see, our instance it's pretty big, which means that I'm going to have plenty of data to create the model, to train the model, to cross-validate, which is fantastic. And that's why I really love having such a big sandbox. Comes with its challenges as well, being a huge instance, but it's super interesting. So you can probably imagine that this is not a problem that you can attack with your opinion, with your impression, with your bias, with your preconception. A human would never be able to make heads or tails out of such amount of data. You need a machine. You need machine learning. You need data to tell the story. So here I've done a lot of work in emphasizing that opinions and facts are two different things. This seems to be a difficult thing to understand sometimes, and that they're not to be discussed on the same. So opinions about what works in marketing are great, but facts about what works in marketing sometimes might make us uncomfortable. I'm going to go with the facts every time, with the data, with the facts, with the numbers. So that's why we need a machine to get that data for us. And the way we went about it was actually quite laborious. We were, in a sense, writing our own book, and we needed to get the help of an analyst to understand our data structures and then create a model and then deploy the model and create objects with it. But that is the past. I'm very happy to say that nowadays, if you want to recreate this, you don't have to go through all that pain. Nowadays, there is a product built by Salesforce that will save you most of the hassle here. And that product is Pardot Einstein Attribution. This is available in some editions of Pardot and some editions of Sales Cloud. And it's a product that we've been a pilot customer of and we've been extremely happy with. So the way this works is that it will allow you to move away from manual, legacy, rules-based attribution. So primary campaign source model, first touch, last touch, even touch. You can leave those and forget about them and have a data-driven, almost completely hands-off model. It also identifies the big gap that there was in attribution, in my opinion, and solves it, which is the dependence on opportunity contact roles. Call me weird, but in my company, if I ask a salesperson to create a contact role for an opportunity, they're going to look bad at me and they're most likely not going to do it. So if I try to attribute marketing spend to sales with legacy contact roles, I get horrible results, nothing. So what they did was Salesforce put in place some heuristic algorithms that figure out who should have been an opportunity contact role in this opportunity, and it creates it in the background as a virtual contact role. Then what they do is utilize Shapley values, which are a concept from game theory, to correctly split the influence of one opportunity across all the campaigns that influenced it, which is great. This is modeled as a cooperative game where the outcome, so the size of the opportunity, is dependent on the input of each of the cooperative players, which are each of the campaigns. That Shapley value is going to allow you to see how big a share of the pie was this campaign responsible for. Brilliant, and it's 100% of the shelf. For us, it basically took one drop down to activate. I'm not going to go very deep into it. If you want to learn more, Lucy Massillon has a fantastic article about it in her blog, which I encourage you to go check about. And it was just by pure chance that when we were developing our model, Salesforce was already thinking and planning to produce something like this. So we fed them what we had learned, and that led to some of the best, most profound discussions about marketing that I've had in my career. And it ended up with Salesforce building something bigger, better, and completely hands-off compared to what we have. And I'm very happy to see that our work also helps other people have this available. So how does this look in practice, and how do you make practical decisions with it? Right now, we can see for any campaign, this is an example of a webinar campaign we ran in May. Which opportunities has this campaign influenced? And not only which opportunities, but how much of the amount of the opportunity is attributable to the fact that one or many people in the opportunity participated or were touched by this campaign. And it's very, very granular. It's the detailed contribution per campaign to the level of euro cents is fantastic. It's something that we couldn't have ever fathomed doing on our own. However, the one minus that I find in it is that this assumes that 100% of the value of the opportunity will be apportioned to marketing campaigns. This may be true for some companies, for faster moving, for software as service companies where you're very driven by marketing. But in a company that is 187 years old, like ours, that deals with sales cycles that are 2, 3, 4, 5 years, projects that are 100 million euros, it's definitely not true. Not all of our revenue is created or sourced from marketing. A small part of it is. And I need to know exactly how big is that part. So yes, I know how much each of its campaigns contributed, but then I need to know as a whole how much marketing contributed. So we went about to build our own deeper attribution model that would allow us to get to that real attribution. This is an architecture diagram for those of you who are interested in it. What we do is fetch data from our enterprise data warehouse, and we're going to have several pieces of code running in Docker containers, stateless ones. They're going to either get the data or create the model, reevaluate the model, produce different objects that are stored in an AWS bucket, and then an API that can grab those objects and either display them on a marketing dashboard or on demand if I query it. It's going to give me objects like a result, like a number, or a probability distribution, or it's going to give me a graph, of which you're going to see some here, that are stored there and ready for consumption when I need them. So I can, through the API, ask the model, hey, please recalculate yourself with the data from last quarter. Please exclude this, include that, calculate again. And then this takes us to the point where I can walk you through how does it work for us. So the first thing we do is tell the model to grab data sets that consist of opportunity, account, contact, lead, prospect activity, campaign. I'm forgetting something for sure. But then since our data is relatively dirty, we are going to have to fuzzy match that. Here we have an example. I need the model to understand that Carnival Maritime, Carnival Cruise Line, Carnival Corporation, Carnival PLC, they're basically the same thing, even though they're different accounts and they may have different opportunities. But if I market to Carnival Corporation and then I see next year that Carnival Maritime buys something, I need the model to understand that I was connected. So with this fuzzy matching, we allow the model to understand that there's a bit more complex relationships across accounts. Then when we have that fuzzy match, we're going to use something that's called a support vector machine. These are normally machine learning algorithms used for classification, but we have a little wrinkle that we use it for regression. This is a bit more ambitious than your linear regression or even a nonlinear regression. What we do is try to find a function that is nonlinear that fits as many of data points as possible inside a pipe of error of width epsilon. And then we play with the margin of error to see how many points. This also allows the model to understand a bit more complex relationships in the data, not just linear ones. And then this allows us to do what I wanted to do exactly when my CMO asked me, which is in film terms, in post-production, when the model understands all our marketing, cancel it. Say like, okay, now look and tell me what would have happened in 2019 if there would have been zero marketing. So I can finally isolate the effect of marketing. And I can do this across any span of time that I want to, and I can even simulate what we were asked about, which are marketing memory. How much of an impact does a marketing activity that happened last year have on a deal that was closed today? What if it was 14 months ago, 16 months ago, 18 months ago, since our sales cycles are long? So we can simulate this and see whether it impacted it or not. And then what we do is, like every machine learning specialist will tell you to do, it's a numbers game. Run it again and again and again and again. We run each scenario 1,000 times so that we get a probability distribution of what is the most likely number or magnitude of that impact of marketing. And what we get is to this slide, which is my favorite one. This is my legacy so far, the thing I'm most proud in my working life up to this point, which is that I have certainty that for last year, for example, for every 100 euros that Wärtsilä Corporation sold, 10.3 were due to the doing of our marketing. And I can say this with 95% confidence. And then this is a very nice segue to the EBIT discussion and the return of investment discussion. So does this justify marketing existing? In my opinion, in the discussions we have, it comes up again and again that if marketing produces 100 euros in sales but costs 100 euros to maintain, it's difficult to justify. It's just not enough for what we are asked to do. But if we cost 100 euros as a function and we produce 100 euros in profit, in EBIT to our shareholders, then it's a different discussion. And then the company is very happy to have us. So our return of investment is framed in terms of EBIT. How many euros in profit did we generate per euro spent in marketing? And I can say again, with 95% confidence, that last year, for each year we spend in marketing, we produced 3.45 euros in profit. So how does this look under the hood? How can we make these claims? The way we're doing this is also with Shapley values, also modeling as a cooperative gains. And for the purpose of the presentation today, I'm going to focus on the third row of the plot. This is a very pretty plot with the colors, but basically what it means in that third row is that when the output variable, in this case, the sum of Pardot score of an account, has a high value, so it's very red, the Shapley value associated to that is going to be very high. It's going to go like very, very much to the right. So we have absolute certainty that a high Pardot score of an account causes a higher likelihood of a company to buy from us. We see other effects that are really interesting, that there's a threshold for us. When a company has bought more than 60,000 euros from us, they're going to respond much better to marketing. When a company buys more types of things from us, they're going to respond much better to our marketing, and their likelihood is going to be higher. When they just call us to fix their stuff that breaks in the field, when they buy field services, it's going to be the opposite. If they buy a lot of field services, they're less responsive to our marketing. So this allows us also to make these operational decisions of what do we want to market, to whom, how much, and what to expect. And this leads us to the point where we can have a model visualized in this case in Power BI. It was a bit of a pipe dream a year and a half ago. We can understand our whole funnel from reach to engage, activate, nurture, marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, and sold euros, where we see the effect of each of the channels, each of the variables here, and the cost of each of this, all under one dashboard. It has several pages. Here I'm showing the summary for brevity. But this is only possible if you're extremely ambitious with where you're going, if you leverage the depth and richness of Pardot data, most likely through the API, and if you really try to get rid of your preconceptions and understand, make decisions based on data. So here I want to give credit where credit is due. And these 5 people plus me are the ones who've made this gigantic leap in a year possible. If you run into them virtually or in person, buy them a coffee, pick their brain. I'm sure we can all learn a lot of stuff from them. And actually, Adele is going to be here tomorrow in ParDreamin as well, talking about the softer side of this, how to build a very resilient team and how tools and team can work hand in hand to go through something as traumatic as the pandemic. I encourage you to be here tomorrow and listen to that. And with this, I'm going to just close you with some takeaways. The first one is that Einstein Attribution absolutely rocks. It will allow you to do things that were a mirage 2 years ago. But it doesn't tell, in my opinion, the whole macro story of how much of the credit is marketing, how much of the credit is sales. If you want to do that, you need to go deeper. And in that going deeper, the Pardot API is going to be your friend for data input and output. There was a workshop about API work here at ParDreamin, which was fantastic. If you want more help on using the API, the folks at Cercante are very experienced in that. And with this, I just want to say that we, as Wärtsilä, we have just about scratched the surface of what one can do. So be ambitious, go to town on your own data with machine learning. Thank you very much. Now let's see if we have questions. All right, so we have a question from Logan. Is this included in Pardot or is it an extra add-on? It depends on your edition of Pardot. Some editions, the on top of the tier editions do have Pardot Einstein Attribution. The more limited ones don't, and it has some prerequisites. I encourage you to ask your Salesforce account executive. They will give you the best info on what you need to actually leverage this. All right. Are there any more questions? If so, type them in the chat or in the Q&A. I'm happy to answer them. But if not, apart from this, of course, at any point, reach out to me through LinkedIn or wherever you want. I'll be happy to help you if you want to build something like this. Right. Another question. Let's see. From Chem. Do you have access to prospect activities through Pardot API? Yes. We do, and that is, in my opinion, the single most valuable thing of the Pardot API, to be able to delve into prospect activities. They're a little bit of a tough nut to crack, so the structure, the update structure is not as simple, but in developer.pardot.com, you have really good documentation about it, and it will explain you how to use prospect activities. How many things are flowing into this data set? From Becky. If you mean the whole full funnel measurability dashboard, we have Pardot, Asana, which is where we budget and we keep our tasks. We have Salesforce, GoToWebinar, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Analytics. And I'm missing something for sure. I can send you a scheme of our tech stack later. How many APIs are connected to your Pardot Salesforce to have one place for all the data? So we are not connecting directly to Pardot or to Salesforce in many things. The reason for that is that in a company as large as ours, it's politically very difficult to get an authorization to connect to master data like Salesforce. So what we are doing is leveraging what other folks have done already in storing. They store this data for safekeeping, and we have duties to our stock owners to keep our data. So they store it in an Oracle Exadata enterprise data storage. What we are doing is actually grab it from there. If you can avoid it, please avoid it. It's a pain in the ass. So if you can connect directly to Salesforce and to Pardot, I encourage you to do that. Just be mindful that APIs can also write. And here, you most likely don't want them to write anything. You just want them to read. So be careful. All right. What channel have you found the greatest ROI in? If you'd have asked me a year ago, I would have said email. But today, I am obligated to say webinars. We saw a huge jump in the number and effectiveness of webinars. So we were running roughly one webinar a quarter before COVID hit. And now we're running between 15 and 20 webinars per quarter. And we can see it now when we utilize Pardot Einstein Attribution to look at our analytics, that webinars are responsible for a pretty big share of the sourced pipeline. So the ROI of webinars is the biggest because they basically don't cost us almost anything, and they source a lot of pipeline. Another question from Maya. Can we make use of Einstein Attribution with Pardot as a standalone application? I'm not 100% sure, but I would say probably not. The reason being that you need a CRM connected to it where you see opportunities, where you see deals actually being closed. If you have some other CRM, if you have some workaround through which you can see opportunities closed won in Pardot, you might be able to do it, but I haven't seen any case. I would encourage you to ask your account executive from Salesforce. They can probably let you know. Another thing you can do is if you don't want to, or if you cannot use Einstein Attribution, is go the wild way and build this on your own. Build an attribution model on your own. All right, we have 3 more minutes. Another question from Becky. Did Einstein Analytics help you create the beautiful dashboard you shared, or did you have to create that manually? We did not create that in Einstein Analytics. We created that outside Einstein Analytics in Power BI in our case. So our mastermind for that is Sujata Karan. I can also put you in touch with her for how that is created. The reason for that is, again, a little bit company politics. So we are a very large enterprise, and we want everybody to be able to view this or access it on demand. I want my CEO or the head of my business or business control to be able to see it. And if we would have built it in Einstein Analytics, it would have probably been easier, but it's limited by license. And with Power BI, what we have, since it's a standard application in the house, and everybody who has a Microsoft account has access to Power BI, we ensure that every single one of the 19,000 employees could view this. That's why we decided to create it in Power BI, not in Einstein Analytics. If you don't have that problem, definitely create it in Einstein Analytics. You will save yourself quite a headache. All right. So if there are no further questions, I want to thank you enormously for being here. It's an honor. It's a pleasure for me to be able to show our work to you. There's one more question. Awesome. Let's take that before we close. Do you put any weight into different types of marketing efforts, email, social, display ad, etc.? From Jem. I'm not sure I understand 100% the question of putting any weight, but the way I understand it is that our model is actually deciding how much is the weight of each of those. Instead of me saying that email is 20% and webinars are 30%, so that our model is figuring out how much of that for each opportunity in each campaign is that weight. And that is the beauty of Einstein Attribution, that it does a work that manually it would be impossible to do. If I didn't answer your question fully, write to me later and I'll try to explain it better. And last question from Mike Coleman. Do you have an email performance dashboard? If so, what does that look like? We do have a performance dashboard, or a page of that dashboard that focuses on engage, which is the engage and activate are the 2 phases where we see email activity, depending on if the person is net new or the person has already been sold to. So I can send you a screenshot of that later. If you leave your email or if you reach out to me here in the platform, I'll send you a screenshot of that. All right, thank you very much. I think we've reached our time. It's been an honor, as said. Fantastic to discuss with all of you. Feel free to connect with me, connect with us, watch Adele tomorrow, and let me know how I can help you. I hope you have a great rest of ParDreamin. Thank you.